versus Metal podcast with the two Dillons. How you
That's
guys
what they
doing?
call us.
Yeah. Uh, Dylan Weldon, Dylan Holliday.
Doing good. It's good to be back, Patrick. I've missed seeing you and talking to you. It's been a while since I've been on. I think Holiday's been on sooner than me, but glad to be on and get to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's cool to catch up with you guys as well. So, has anybody been able to do TikTok as like their job yet?
Yeah, I've been doing it. I think I was doing it when I was on with you last time. I've been full time since May of 2023.
Okay. Oh yeah, then definitely. Maybe I just didn't ask or.
Yeah, we'll see what happens after January 19th, but
Dude,
who knows?
I thought it was going to go the way of how it went in Montana, of where it didn't go through. But I was really shocked at the appeal. Just said, "Yep, it's good to go."
Yeah, well, I mean, there's still, the Supreme Court and all that stuff, and then we'll see what Trump does. He said whenever he was running that he was opposed to a ban, but the last interview he did kind of seemed like he was doing a little bit of crawfishing to me, so it worried me a little bit. But who knows? Who knows? It's probably all a big distraction anyway.
Yeah. How about you, Dylan?
No, I make for this interview. You can just call me Holiday, Patrick. It might make things easier for you. No, I make what I call hot dog money here on TikTok. I haven't hit the big time like many of my other folks around me, but similar to you guys, I sort of didn't think it would go this far and get as close to going away. So we're hoping that the right channels are met, and we're hoping that TikTok can stick around because we've all built followings here and so many great friends and connections.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's a very different connection than through like Instagram or YouTube. It's like when I meet people that I know through TikTok, I feel like I kind of already know them rather than like the other social media sites. It's weird how I guess it's more with like if you see people's lives and stuff like that, and I don't know. It's just different. And I know you guys kind of feel the same way. I've asked.
Yeah, it's very community, based over on TikTok. When you're on TikTok, everything just feels so close and tight knit, and there's a lot of people that are in your circle. But at the end of the day, everybody's doing their own thing, and you share a lot of audience, so it just feels cozy.
Yeah.
Well, TikTok is the only place that I do live stream. Me and Holiday tried Instagram Live one time, and it just wasn't the same feeling as over on TikTok. But most of my content I do, post across Instagram and Facebook. But I do the lives on TikTok, so it does seem like when you do those live streams, it seems like you really get to know the followers and stuff. So yeah, it will be disappointing if it goes away. Hopefully those people though will follow us on other platforms if it does go away, and we can continue those relationships.
Yeah. What's funny is like I was looking at Nunley's profile the other day, and he's like at like what over 8.5 million. And he still does he clicks on like the vote. It's very interesting to see like people's votes on when I do like the verses, which like they're just all in fun. Like people take them, some people just take them way too serious, and it appears he's a very big George Strait fan.
Yeah, Nudley loves his country music. I could see him being a big George Strait fan though. Yeah, it's an interesting time. It seems like I saw a guy on the news today. He was like, when he first heard about the ban getting pushed through again a month or so ago, he's like, here we go again, because it seems like this has just been something they've been talking about for 3 years now. Hopefully, if it does get squashed this time, that'll be the end of it, but I doubt it. It's aggravating because it for some people like myself, it is a big part of your livelihood. But if it does go away, I think you just got to pivot and shift to something else.
Yeah.
It's all you can do.
Yeah.
And there's going to be an exodus to other platforms, I'm sure. You know, it's not like everybody who makes content just stops here. I think that there will be an exodus to other platforms. Now, what's unfortunate is a lot of those platforms don't pay as much, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the RPM on TikTok is pretty significantly higher than that of Facebook, and definitely way higher than Instagram. I mean, I make money on all three of those platforms, and TikTok pays significantly more. I would say probably over double what Facebook pays, and a whole lot more than Instagram. You don't make hardly anything on Instagram, a few $100s a month if you're lucky. So yeah, it's going to suck, but I'm sure somebody's going to pick up the slack.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see.
It's weird because TikTok came along and revolutionized how we use social media, and all these places immediately ripped off, you know, TikTok, and now we're getting rid of TikTok, and all those other places are, you know, getting to use what TikTok built, and that's also unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's like we can be talking about a product or something, and you can go on the other platforms and see like ads for it. Like everybody's listening. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe in this whole data thing. I really think that it's if I'm being honest, I hate getting political about anything, but I think it's one of the biggest things to come against our First Amendment right, maybe in the history of our country, and it's pretty scary. I can't help but think of the old Reagan quote: "The 9 most horrifying words you could hear is, 'Hey, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.'" And it kind of seems like that's what we've been hearing. Oh, we're doing this for you. That's kind of scary to me.
yeah.
Well, it's like Patrick just said, right? Everybody already has our data. I mean, what they're telling us is we don't want you on this app because they're taking your data. They're going to try to sell you products. And it's like, you mean as opposed to all the other companies that take my data and sell me products directly? The only difference in TikTok is they created their own shop, and it's successful. TikTok shop is successful, even if people hate it.
Yeah. And if the Chinese wanted to, you know, steer me towards red dirt, thank you.
Right?
And that's the craziest thing about it. Is like I think about all the great artists, and I'm sure everybody in here has artists that TikTok showed them that they wouldn't have known otherwise. And TikTok's become a lot of artists, you know, jumping off point. You know, the Red Clay Strays got real big here on TikTok, and now look at them. They're, you know, nominated for awards and whatnot. And still today, even last week, you know, Belle Franz and Gabriella Rose, people who have one video go viral, and now they're practically household names.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's not like weird. It's just, you know, growing up back when you had to do flyering and advertise your shows and like hit the streets and have like a team, and now it's just like everything's right here, just the whole world, 24/7, anywhere in the world, and especially they say like 170 million people use it in this country can find your music, and sometimes it's found just on the For You page. That's like, so when I don't do it, but I knew like how I could do my videos, because like when you look at, I don't know if your analytics are the same, like I can drop a viral video like 3 times and it doesn't go to my followers, it goes to new people. And that's, if you understand how to harness that, it is a great tool to find more and more people, like Gavin Adcock. Like
Yeah.
there's been so many people I've seen and they're just like really short videos with his lyrics, and he just doing something in the background. And man, a lot of people have been finding music through like little like I guess would they be like meme vids, or you know what I mean? But it's incredible.
It's definitely created a new avenue for artists to, or anybody, not just in the music space, anybody to reach audiences or people that they want to reach. I was last week. I stayed the week at Gary Gentry's house, who wrote "The Ride" and 1959, the one I love back then, and we were writing songs together. And that would have never happened for me if it wasn't for TikTok and being able to grow an audience and put out videos. And he reached out to me because of I'd made videos on some of his songs, and we become good friends. So TikTok has definitely impacted a lot of lives, mine included, in a very, very positive way. And it creates a lot of opportunities, for sure. I know even for you guys, it's created a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about it? Interviewing Cody Jinks there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was that was quite unexpected. But yeah, like what he was saying, he really loves doing podcasts and stuff. And I listened to a couple of his to kind of get a feel of what he was doing. But yeah, at first he had something to do, or he didn't have like good internet, and I'm like, oh man, like how am I ever going to catch a time where he could sit down again? But I went to Texas, and his manager was there, and she was like, I assure you, he wants to do it. But yeah, that was really cool. That was a cool conversation.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Me and Weldon wish we have that problem. A lot of the older folks, man, they don't want to do any shows, and so you sort of have to twist people's arms and really turn the charm up to 100. And I'm sure Weldon can tell you more about that than me.
Well, Holliday and I were fortunate enough back in June or July to get to sit down and have a conversation with Bobby Braddock on my podcast. And, Bobby wrote He Stopped Loving Her Today, Time Marches On, I Want to Talk About Me, Texas Tornado, DIVORC. He wrote a number one hit in 5 separate decades, which is incredible. So for he and I to get to sit down and talk to somebody like that was just really and truly the highlight, I think, of my entire year. And he told me, I got to have lunch with him last week, and he told me that of all the interviews he's done in his life, he's 84 years old, that me and Holliday gave him the best. Being on our podcast was the best time he'd ever had with one. So that was really made us feel good to hear that from somebody like Bobby. So yeah, and you having Cody Jinks on, we've got a lot of opportunities from this app. So I hope it don't go away, and we'll see.
Yeah, for the both of you, who would be like a dream guest?
Well, we just talked about it. For me, and it's someone who we might be able to work out, it's Bobby Bear. He's one of those troubadours that's left that has all those stories from every era, right? Like, he's the guy who made the call to Chet Atkins about Waylon Jennings. Like, to hear that story from the guy, stories about coming up with people like, Waylon, like Tom T. Hall, Dave Dudley, that whole group. But also like someone still alive who saw the whole legacy. For me, it's Bobby Bear, and I know Weldon's going to give the popular answer.
You sure Dave Dudley was there, Holliday?
I know for a fact Dave Dudley was there.
Little insider information here for you, Patrick. When we were preparing to talk to Bobby Braddock, we, AI is a big thing nowadays. So we decided, mostly me, that we would ask AI, ChatGPT, to give us some interesting questions that we might not have thought about to ask Bobby. And one of them was, ask him about his time with Dave Dudley. And both me and Holliday were like, wow, we didn't know that he even did anything with Dave Dudley. So we get on the podcast, and poor Holliday asked the question. He's like, "So, Bobby, how was your time with Dave Dudley?" And Bobby's like, "Dave Dudley? I've never done anything with Dave Dudley."
The sweetest way he could have answered the question, too, because he goes, you boys know so much that if you told me I worked with Dave Dudley, I believe you. And I said, no, sir, I don't think this is the case. I said, I think Weldon messed up on this one. Because we had read his book. Weldon, what's the title of his book?
A Life on Nashville's Music Row, one of the greatest books, one of the greatest autobiographies you'll ever read.
And it is. So we had read through the book, and we were thinking, man, we already have a stacked roster of questions. We might as well, though, use the information at our fingertips, the internet, to see, hey, what's happening. And Weldon decided to tag in ChatGPT, and boy, did it blow up. Now, we did edit that out of the podcast, but it was a funny moment.
Yeah, but to answer the question, my dream of people who are still with us would be Willie Nelson, which I don't think will ever happen because Willie is 91 years old, and they take his health pretty seriously. And, from what I understand, if his band members even leave to go somewhere, they make them take a COVID test when they come back. Like, they're very, very careful with Willie. So it would probably be something remote if I ever got the opportunity. But he would definitely be my dream. But yeah, of people that we might be able to get, Bobby Bear is definitely up there for it. We like to get a bunch of the old timers because, me and Holliday, we love those old time stories. So yeah. Any of those guys.
But we also try to do what we've dubbed legacy interviews. And those are interviews that, towards the end of these folks' careers, they can go back on, and there's a place for them to put the whole story. And that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have Jeannie Seeley on soon, who is the longest running female Opry member. Thanks to Elizabeth Cook, who was on the podcast. She's trying to help me set that up, hopefully in January after all the holidays. So that's going to be fun. She's been at the Opry for, I should know this information, decades. So she has a lot of really fun stories, I'm sure. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm like the Cliff Notes of country. Surrounded by two encyclopedias. I'm like, my big names are like, George Strait, Randy Travis and stuff like that. But, from going from no country to being backstage with Randy Travis, I was like, man, this is pretty cool.
But you do a great job too, because you can bridge that gap where like myself and Weldon can't. Like myself and Weldon can't necessarily relate to someone who hated country music, but you can. So you do what you do fantastic.
It's definitely a freedom of not growing up with these legends. Because when people are like, you can't compare no one to George Strait, I'm like, yes, I can. I can. Randall King, how about that? Look how
to be fair, I do that too, but the internet doesn't like when I do it.
You come for the king. You better bring an army, sir.
Really?
It's weird. And what bothers me, what shouldn't, is because I know there's people out there that they don't want anything else, but like everybody they loved and cherished is going to be gone, and it's like, well, what do you? I found myself like pigeonholed too, as like I was like, you know what? After this, I don't like any music after that, and then like when I opened my mind up, I'm like, dude, like there is so much like life-changing music out there that like I absolutely love that. But I just know there's so many people out there. They're like, it's just him, and if it ain't from that era, and it ain't from these 5 artists, it ain't country, It ain't worth my ear holes.
It's hard too because like the community myself and Weldon have built. Sometimes if you go to talk about some of these younger artists, people attack you. Like, you know, you go to make a video and you have the best of intentions. Like, I'm going to make a video and I'm going to talk about Zach Top, and you'll have people in your comments, he ain't no George Strait, and it's like, well, yeah, he's not trying. You know, he's we're in the new, you know, millennium here.
Yeah.
And so it can be difficult on that end. I know.
Yeah, like I wanted to do like a kind of like a replacement video, but I was like, man, that is not a great term because, like, you know, like if you like George Strait, you might like Zach Top, or like Alan Jackson, you might like Zach Top, and I was like, you know, you like George Strait, you might like Randall King, or like, you know what I mean? Like, there's artists out there that they have the same kind of characteristics and you know, sound and nostalgic sounds of that era that I hear, and I think they're doing it very well in the other problem we have of what's ruling the radio and what people perceive as country now.
Yeah. Well, when I make a video, going back to what you were saying about, you know, people getting upset about if you talk about any other artist, when I make something, I make it as a content creator first and a country music fan second. Sometimes I put out a video and I already know before it's even uploaded that it's going to just have the worst comments on the face of the planet, which is why I don't really read a lot of comments. If you read comments, your self-esteem is going to go from here to here. It could be the best, you know, the best video in the world. You could be talking so nice about somebody and somebody's going to have something to say. For a while, when I was a long time ago first doing this stuff, I blocked a lot of people but now like the content creator part of me is like, why am I blocking these people who are engaging with my content? Even if it's negative, I'm not going to argue with them because somebody who loves what I do is going to take up for me and argue with them, and just let that happen organically. I never do anything intentionally thinking this is going to get a bunch of hate comments, but sometimes my own opinions, when I put those out, I'm like, this is going to get a lot of hate, but it's just part of the territory.
Yeah. Sometimes it's something so small. A couple weeks ago, I put out a video. I'm gonna drop some names here. A couple weeks ago, I put out a video, and I've tried to change my style up here. Weldon's helped me out a lot with changing up my style and moving myself into a better social media direction. Having said all that, I made a video by request about the song "The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia." Boy, did you know there were a lot of Vicki Lawrence fans here on TikTok, Patrick? Because the Vicki Lawrence fans aren't happy with me. It's funny how something so small, like legitimately to me just a passing sort of thing to get me to the next point, people want to pick apart, you know, and that's how it goes here.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Jeff Canada videos, but I was telling him, I said, listen, I know how what hits viral right now, and he's like, what is it? And I said, if you don't think George Strait's the king of country, and if I ask you that and you give another answer, it is going to go viral. And he goes, I want to play. He goes, because it ain't George Strait, and that was the setup. And people were like, he was like, man, I can't believe that it's got 300,000 views. I'm like, Jeff, I dropped it again. It's got 700.
You know, another one? Here's another one you can lob to people. And I'll say this in a non-threatening way. If you ask me this question, I'll murder you. I will never again answer the question, what is my Mount Rushmore of country music? It will not happen. It will not happen. Every time you do this, people are pissed. There's no right answer.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like the one video I said William Clark Green is my Keith Whitley, and people were like, he ain't nothing like Keith Whitley. I said that's not what I'm referencing. I'm just
That's
saying,
a great pick, though.
I'm like, this dude's voice did something to me, like the first time I heard Keith Whitley, and he's got more of like fun songs, but like some of his songs were like, they're really real personal. Okay, I was like another guy was like David Tribble. I told him, I said, dude, I feel like I'm in your kitchen watching you argue with your girlfriend or wife sometimes. It's like you put me in the room of the situation you're in. And he was like, dude, that's exactly what us songwriters are going for.
Yeah. And like, you know, more on that, a lot of these guys are trying to transport you somewhere, you know, and that's what, you know, like Braxton Keith, who I know y'all are familiar with, does so well. I love Braxton, but you listen to his songs and you're transported wherever he wants to take you, you know, whatever era, whatever landscape, you're there, man. Those folks over there, they do great.
Yeah. Cozy is a genius song. It hooks you and then you get hooked and you're like, oh, did not see that coming. And I love how he's like, he wanted to release it around like this time. He told me, he was like, you know, cozy, like a warm song. I was like, man, that's not a warm song, but I get what you're saying. But like, yeah, like there's another guy like, and his Eddie Rabbit cover I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
There's great artists that are, and like William Beckman, another dude with a fantastic voice and music that's just paying homage that I know people would love. It's just if they just would open their hearts.
Yeah, it's exciting to see. You know, I always get the comments on my videos when I do read them. I'll see it pop up. Country music is dead, especially on when I'm talking about a newer artist or something. But it's exciting to see that those great voices and storytelling is making a comeback with folks like Braxton and Zach Top. And it's kind of slow. I mean, you go back 12 years ago and it was Cody Jinks and the Randy Rogers Band and these guys who were kind of bootstrapping it. And then you go back before that, Cross Canadian Ragweed and all these guys. It's kind of slowly, very slowly been making its way back to the mainstream, but I think we're starting to get to that point. My wife had the radio on the other day. I rarely listen to the radio, but she had it on the other day, and a Zach Top song came on. So it's exciting to see that kind of music, the traditional country music, starting to make a comeback on the mainstream.
Yeah, I had the same moment every time I get in someone's car now. They put on the country radio, and I'm like, no, not this. But the other day, I was like, Bread Clay Strays. I know these guys, and they're like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, but I hung out with them in Florida. I said that'll probably never happen again. But I said, yeah, these guys, this. If it was more of this, I'd be happy.
Patrick, do you ever get like the imposter syndrome? Because it happens for me a lot where like I'm in places I have no business being, with people I have no business being with, and I know Weldon's gone through. Does that happen for you as well?
You know what's funny is I'm not very social. Like I have like social anxiety disorder. Like I'll be like, I'm gonna go to this store, and if I see a lot of people, I won't go in. like I'll tell you, like the first time someone's like, here's passes, you can go backstage, and I like was like, you know what I mean? But like what really helped was of going like to festivals where like you can have like when you go to Mile Zero, like people are like, how do you meet all these people? I'm like, go to Mile Zero and just walk around. You're gonna meet a whole bunch of people. And it's funny is a lot of times like I didn't realize I was responding to a comment and someone sent me a DM, said, look who you're talking to in the comment. It was Cody Canada's wife. And I'm like, listen, if anything happens, I was like, I can die happy. I'm on a Red Dirt song. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, there's Cody Canada's wife, man. Like, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm friends with her on Facebook. Like, because I just didn't realize. But like, sometimes, yeah, because people, there's fans that have like the knowledge like you, and they just like, my mind starts melting. And I'm like, man, like, I wish I knew what you were talking about, you know, like, but yeah, it is funny. I do feel like that at times, but at times that's the stuff I love too.
Yeah. I try to meet folks at their level, which is why, like, the last time I appeared on your show here, like, I had things prepared to connect some dots and bridge some gaps for you. And it's one of those things, though, when you're in the situation, like when me and Weldon visited Nashville and we're standing in Johnny Cash's house, like there's a painting, an oil painting looking down at us over a fireplace, and we're with our buddy Grayson Russell, and it's like, man, these guys deserve to be here. I don't. Yeah, I have 30,000 followers. What am I doing here?
I went to Patsy Cline's house, and like I was like, oh, maybe I'll go in. And then I'm looking. It was like the people that lived around there did not like people stopping. I was like, let's leave. You know, like, I know that Virginian stare. It's time to go.
Weldon, do you have any great memories from when we were in Tennessee you want to talk on?
Well, I want to comment on what you said, Holliday, about feeling like you don't deserve something. And I have felt that way before, of like being backstage. I've been backstage at the Opry several times at this point, and each time it's almost like, man, how did I end up here? But as far as you fellas go, I think that each of us deserves everything that we've gotten, because all of us have worked hard. I mean, Patrick, you post consistently. Holliday, you post consistently, and it's not easy. It's not something that you can just get up in the morning and do in 10 minutes and it's done. Like, it takes a lot of research and time and editing and everything. So I don't think any of us should ever feel that we don't deserve to be in a certain situation. So
yeah, but then, like, you're in a situation with us where, like, you know, you're out to lunch with Bobby Braddock, and he says we did the best interview he'd ever had, Weldon. Of all the people that have interviewed Bobby Braddock ever, I don't know, me and you being the ones, the chosen people, it just doesn't seem right. You know, it doesn't seem real.
Well, you got to think about people who are put, and I don't want to say, I'm not saying this negatively towards people who do interviews, but a lot of these people at networks and stuff, that's their job. They have to go do the interview. They might do a little bit of research. For me and you, we've been fans of Bobby Braddock quite literally since we were almost born. And so for us to get to sit down with Bobby, it's burning questions that we wanted to know. And we were genuinely interested in it. So I think that really resonates with your guests when you have that passion about what they do. It really resonates.
Yeah, and it is cool. Like, a lot of these entertainers and artists, they do watch. They like Cody Canada texted me a clip of me. It just starts off. I was like, I love Cody Canada, and I just go and I tell the story about how I first met him, and he was like, dude, appreciate all the love and you know what you're doing. And I was just like, you know, like, I was like, it's so cool. When I first heard that, I'm like, dude, if I had heard that back being like into the heavy metal as I was like, dude, that like it. And then to find out, like, my buddy who I was in a band with for 10 years had heard it before, and I'm like, it was just like right there, you know, like.
It's crazy to see, like, you go through a video or you go through a post or whatever, and like to see the verified people that like or comment on your stuff. Like, and over on Instagram, like, I'll occasionally post something that I write, you know, and like there's writers who have had number ones that, you know, like the post or comment, and it's like, man, I appreciate that. You know, who knows better than you?
I ended up at a party a few weeks ago in Nashville, and there were a lot of high-profile big names in country music there. And I was standing there talking to Big Kenny of Big and Rich, who's the sweetest guy in the world, by the way. And me and him was talking. I don't even remember what we were talking about. And somebody hit me pretty hard in the chest like that, you know. And I was like, who is this? And I turned, and it was Luke Bryan. And the first thought that came to my mind was, I've poked fun at Luke a couple times on the internet. I've made some videos that, you know, was poking fun at Luke. Nothing too serious, but the first thought that came to my mind was, uh-oh, Luke's coming to coming to call me out for making fun of him. And the second thought was Luke is a pretty big fella. He's, I don't know, 6'5" or something. He's a pretty big fella. And I was thinking, if Luke Bryan beats me up, I might have to delete my whole platform, you know. But no, he's like, man, you broke the news on Jamie. That's back a few weeks ago when Jamie got busted, unfortunately. And we talked about that a minute. And Luke, by the way, was just as nice as could be. And we had a whole conversation there. But yeah, I walked away from that thinking, man, a lot of these folks here know and appreciate what I do. And it was a good feeling to realize that.
That's awesome.
But I was scared.
I was just playing.
Yeah, I was just playing, Luke. I didn't realize he was that big. He's a big old boy, Luke Bryan is.
I had no idea. I thought Luke Bryan and Luke Combs were the same person. I remember I was calling my buddy because he was like, you got to listen to these originals. And I'm like, I called him up. I was like, dude, I cannot find Hurricane by Luke Bryan. He goes, Luke Bryan does not... He's like, how are you my guitar player? He's like, Luke Combs. I'm like, who the hell's Luke Combs? He's like, I'm hanging up. I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, it's like the first time I played with Brian Martin. He's like, you mean to tell me this is the first time you've heard the name, not the music, the name George Jones? I said, yes. In this parking lot, getting ready to play your show. I just heard she stopped loving, he stopped loving, you know, that.
Yeah.
She stopped loving her today.
Yeah. He's like, right now? This is the first time. I was like, yes. Okay. Like, let me concentrate because I think they changed the keys.
Well, that's the other thing. So a couple weeks back when I rebranded with the help from Dylan Weldon here, the first video he said to make was about He Stopped Loving Her Today, because you're always going to get the diehard country music fans are like, everybody knows the song, everybody knows what happened. And it's like, okay, first off, there are several interviews Bobby Braddock was asked the question, and he says his most asked question is, what happens in that song? Because a lot of people don't realize that in the song, the guy dies. He's dead. That's the story. So I'll let people in on the secret. We don't really make videos for the diehard country music fans. If they enjoy them, that's great. We make videos for the other people. Like, at least on my end, like, I make videos for people who have never heard of George Jones before, might come across the song and think, man, that's an interesting song. I don't know what happened. That's why I make the videos.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do love that aspect as well. But one thing I don't do is, like, I don't jump down the rabbit hole. And it's very hard not to, because, like, if I find, like, a new artist that I really like, I don't go download their entire album and listen like how I used to. If I found a new artist, I would download, you know, get their album, listen to it nonstop all the way through. But with this, I try to, like, keep, like, the fresh perspective, because a lot of people are like, oh, you like this artist? I'm like, dude, I've never heard this. Like, there's some Shane Smith and the Saints songs that I just look at. It's on my list, and I'm like, man, I really need to listen to, like, I really need to start going back and doing, like, albums in case, like, I'm missing, like, a concept of everything. But just to keep it, like, I haven't listened to, like, an older artist in a while. The last old one I did was George Strait, the book, and I watched the video back. I was like, oh, he's talking about the Bible. I had no idea, because, like, still, like how you guys say and told me, people listen to lyrics differently, listen to music differently, and I still, if there's a drummer, if there's, I did a show where I played bass. Now I'm like obsessed with the bass, and I would go back. I'm like, I didn't listen to the lyrics again, but I try to do better. Like Tanner Usry, I was like, man, I really like the music. I really like the music. Remember, Tanner has deep songs. You know, don't get lost.
Some people are like that, though. Like, I forget who it was now that told us, but apparently Waylon Jennings used to hire out time in the booth just to listen to the instruments.
Huh.
Just to listen to the instrumentals. Go ahead.
That was Papa Gary that told me that he was at the studio one day and Waylon had come in and he had rented like 3 hours in the studio just to sit down and listen to bass licks. But Waylon was very deep into his music. He the music side of it. And if you go back and listen to those old Waylon tunes, you can tell he's doing something different, and that's why people loved him. But he for all of the outlaw persona and everything, he was kind of a music nerd, you know, and he spent a lot of time musically on his productions.
I did not know that. That's interesting. I wonder if he was nice about it, or was he like a more like I hate Prince. You know, did you cough at me? You gone? Like you just hear like the stories of that. It's like whoa, but all to me, he'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna do everything. But that's expensive, just to sit in a studio and listen. But well,
yeah, so was the cocaine, cool. Patrick. So was the cocaine.
Yeah, that's true. No, I think he was always pretty kind to everybody about it, the music and stuff. But he did, you know, a lot of artists do just go in the studio and whatever the producer says, that's how it's going to go, and they cut their songs and that's it. I think Waylon was just a lot more involved, which is why his music has lived on 20-something years after he's died, and it'll live on a whole lot longer. He really cared about his music, and I think that makes the difference in a lot of artists even today, is that they care about the product that they're putting out.
Yeah, I love his voice. Like I always say, it's like it sounds like it was aged in a whiskey barrel. It just has like it's like a cool characteristic. Like if you sat down at a bar and someone started talking to you with that voice, you would know. Like you sit down somewhere and there's like an old man with that just characteristic voice. You're like, this guy's got some stories, you know.
And that's exactly how it happened with Bobby Bare. Bobby Bare's in a bar in Arizona, hears Waylon performing, calls up Chet Atkins at RCA and says, I have the guy, and plays him through the phone speaker. And that was the history. Now, of course, there was a lot of stories with Chet Atkins and Waylon and a lot of animosity there, but that really catapulted Waylon's country career.
That's great. That's like a real life Back to the Future moment where he's like, yo, Chuck,
I have a song for you, Patrick, that you can do, that you can react to, that I guarantee you haven't heard yet. But speaking of Bobby Braddock and Waylon Jennings, Bobby wrote this song. It's called Revelation. Have you ever heard it?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. You should react. I would love to watch your reaction. I think a lot of people would love to watch your reaction to that song, because it is, I'm not going to give too much away, but it's one of those songs that you're like, wow, by the end of it. Yeah. So I'll send that one to you.
Well, yeah, like recently for like a little while, a lot of if I did like the bigger names, it was getting muted, but I've been doing like screenshots so I don't lose it. Like I lost so many, like Tanya Tucker. And
yeah.
It was a shame, because I was like, dude, I miss like I love like Pink Floyd The Wall, just like big theatrical songs, and I feel like now like you can just like download the brass section in the box and just press buttons, and you can program everything's always in key, and it's just this does sound good ish, yeah, but back then when you hear like the scratchiness, and you just know like these are like real live fingers, and like that was the best they were that day. And it's nowadays, like you can do like, you know, you can clip in and boom boom boom, but it's still like your best performance. But like I don't know, it's like Drew Herrickle the other day, like all a record is just a capture in a moment of time. And then we were talking like, yeah, it kind of when you think about like like that's the best they were that day. And I don't know, just something about the older recordings of knowing, like they like Working Man Blues. They say it's like, someone hit that chisel, and that's another, like, the big artist like Merle. Like I listened to rap, but I didn't really listen to, like, I really liked, like, when Eminem came out, and if he did like his sounds with his own voice, and that was different, just a little variation of a genre, like where he would do the sound effects just with his voice when other people might have used samples and whatnot. And to hear like the chisel, and he seemed to incorporate more like jazz style with horns and everything. And I just learning of the older play, and just how it's similar, but characteristically they're very individual. They're very individual styles that I'm slowly learning. Like, you whether you want to do it or not, you do veer towards something that you like more, and it is cool to finally start. Because for a while, when people would say like, "Who's your favorite old guy?" I'd be like, I don't know, and I'm slowly getting towards that. But the people that already know their answer, they've been with their parents in the back seat from like toddler on up. So
Yes, the old way of doing things was more genuine for sure, because they would have those. They would make it as perfect as possible, but it was no way of ever making it perfect. And now with the digital things that we have and the technology we have, you can make a perfect record. You can make everything pitch perfect. And I think that just kind of makes the music a little more plastic than it used to be.
yeah.
Hopefully it kind of steers away from that in the future. But I think that's what a lot of people don't like about the mainstream country radio, is a lot of it is too plastic. But I think a lot of the underground artists are more raw in what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know if you heard the new Josh Malloy. It's like it's definitely like, you kind of feel like you're in the room with the drummer, and then you just hear his voice, and it's just very like, keep it simple. And like the one Gavin Adcock song. I'm listening, the first time I listened to it, I'm like, did he just cough? And he messaged me, and he goes, "Yep, I decided to leave it in. Why not? It was a one take." And I was like, dude, I love stuff like that. And like, being the era from I miss, when you get a new CD, and you listen to the last track, and it doesn't go back to the first one, you're like, ooh, where's the secret song? It's kind of like that. There are like moments of music that I miss from when I'm growing up, and I feel like some of these people are coming out are like, you know what, we miss it too, and let's do it. Like, it worked back then, we can do it now, and I love the modern take on it.
And you have like a lot of those live albums from back in the day. Like, you have Johnny Cash in front of Folsom for 3 separate days. They recorded all of them. And depending on which day you got, the dirty jokes changed. Like, they don't... It seems like live albums aren't built like that anymore, because they even want live albums to be perfect. Like, it sounds like you're in the studio, which to me defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
But live albums were also where guys used to be able to do something different. Like, hey, maybe we're going to change up the tempo,
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you speak on this one, Holliday, because I didn't listen to the album, but they did just come out with a George Jones album a few weeks back, and after hearing people talk about it, I just decided not to listen to it. But Holliday did listen to it, and I'll let him kind of tell you his thoughts.
Weldon's trying to get me in trouble, Patrick. Look, I'll start this off by saying, y'all know I love George Jones and have the utmost respect for everybody that was a part of that camp. Having said that, they auto-tuned our boy, and he didn't need it. And if you listen to it, there are certain tracks on the album where, you know how like when older folks use the auto-tune, they sound like they're drowning? Yeah, it was rough, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a big thing going on now in the interwebs with Oliver Anthony and Parker McCollum about what did he say? He's using 5 to 6 vocal modulators. I'm like,
Well, you're a guitar guy, Patrick. To someone who may not be a guitar guy, who walks on stage and sees a pedal board with all these different pedals on it, maybe that's what he saw. I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't really spoken on it because I don't know. I don't think that artists, I think it's unfortunate when artists, especially two artists that's like Parker and Oliver, are kind of, having this squabble.
yeah.
Because Parker, hardworking guy, he's been around for a long time. I remember when he first kind of came on the scene years ago, back when I was still in college. And he's a hardworking guy. Oliver Anthony seems like a hardworking guy. So it's unfortunate to see him, throwing shade towards one another.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gets squashed, though.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to make a video, and like I'm friends with Oliver Anthony on here, and I've never met Parker, but I've met his brother. So I was just going to be like, yeah, I never met Parker, but here's his brother. I had a great time with him. He was talking to me, and it was funny. He was like, "You ever heard of the band Carcass?" I was like, "Yeah, dude. Like we can talk all of it." He's like, "Man, ain't nobody in Stockyards ever heard of these bands." And it was funny hearing that he's a big metalhead as well. But yeah, I was just gonna. I was just like, yeah, and if you're an artist thinking about doing this, don't do that. Because you know what I mean? Like, if you've never heard him before and you hear him in that context, you'll form an opinion about him, which might, in terms of other people, might be right, might be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I always used to tell the people in a band I'm with, like, if you got something to say, wait until we're in the band trailer. We'll have an office meeting and we'll talk about, keep your comments to yourself. Don't go online. Be like, you know what? Because I've been guilty of myself. There was it was a radio station doing a contest. We played all original music. Everybody played all original music, and this one band came out and played a medley of everybody's favorite songs. Guess who won? They did. The people that end the set with Simple Man. Come on. The judges are singing it. I'm like, dude, like this is to open up for an original artist. And I had a couple Beverazzi's, and I walked over to the radio host, and I made sure they would never play music on the radio. And I'm like, dude, this was are they going to play medleys for this artist, for this original artist? I was like, did you want a bar band? Because that's what you got. I'm like, I wasn't bitter. I was just like, this is why we don't do music anymore, especially up here. Like, I love down around Texas and around the South. It's like, dude, we don't want to listen to the record, the jukebox. We want to hear you, and I love that. But yeah,
it's hard too when you mix in like social media followings, because there are people that, like, Oliver Anthony gained such a following that people, what he says to his fan base is gospel, no pun intended.
yeah,
And so if he tells his fan base that Parker's out here doing whatever Parker allegedly is doing, there's people that they don't care. They're going to believe it, right? Mm-hmm. And Parker's in that same boat where now he has to respond because, as it would appear, this is a fraudulent claim, that this is just bull. Right. And so he has to address it. And now his fans are at odds. And once again, the only people who look bad are traditional country music fans. They're the only people. They're always the people that walk away and look bad in these situations.
Well, Aaron Watson made a pretty good point. He had a pretty comedic response to what all had happened. And he had mentioned, when Oliver Anthony first came out with Rich Men North of Richmond, that Jason Isbell had a lot to say about Oliver's songwriting negatively. And he's like, man, just don't do it. Don't try to put another artist down. I think that's good advice too. You know, focus on the positive of your own career. And I've done my fair share of, like you said, Patrick, doing a little bit of saying things that maybe I shouldn't have said in the past. But I've really tried to change my platform over the past year or so to being more positive and uplifting towards everybody, because even though there is music that I don't understand, at the end of the day, sometimes you might be at a party and Luke Bryan comes up and sucker punches you because you talked bad about him, you know. But so, yeah.
Oh my God.
It's also, you know, what I learned is it wasn't good for me to go around and bash songs I didn't like, because a lot of people, right, who listen to, I don't know what a good example is at this point, but let's say someone listens to Beyonce's new album, right? And they hear Jolene, that person might look up Jolene, find Dolly's version, and become a country music fan. So if I bash Beyonce, that turns them away from this genre, and we don't want that. We want as many people listening to real country music as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just like when I was talking to Cody Jenks, I say again, I was like, if you have anything bad to say, you just keep it for the tour bus. And he was like, yep, keep it for the tour bus, or my one secret holder, my wife. You know, you tell them everything. You like, don't you hear that new song? It's garbage. You know, and it just lockbox right there. And it, you know, something happens down the line where like one of your friends goes and gets interviewed and says this, you can be like, I don't recall ever saying that, you know. But if it's you on camera, like, hey, let me tell you, like, that's, especially nowadays, even if you take things down, you can go to Google Cache, you're like, oh no.
Well, it's good too, though, to have, like, myself and Weldon having each other is great because we understand a lot of the same sort of struggles. So, like, you know, I've been playfully dubbed the most hated man in country music, and it's hysterical because I don't have a following, but I'm a very disliked fella in this circle. So what do? You just let it go. The water under the bridge, and you let it go, and you just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and your content is like wholesome. I see, that blows my mind.
We try.
I know exactly what you're talking about. The first time I did a video on the Highwayman, like I did not know who Chris Christopherson was. I had no idea. And someone was like, you ain't never seen Blade? I'm like, I've seen Blade. And they're like, well, he was Whistler. I'm like, listen, I didn't say, wow, this guy did a great job on this Whistler guy. Let me look up his name. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoyed the movie. I thought he was a great actor, but... And then you find out about his life, and you know what I mean? But it's just like getting attacked for that. Like, but there was a lot of other people that were like, hey, man, you need to realize, you need to really like go down that rabbit hole. And I think you will generally like the story you find. And I did. And it's, but yeah, not, you know, Willie Nelson. I knew Willie Nelson because he got sued by the IRS, and Bill Hicks had a comedy skit about him.
Yeah.
And like I just recently found out like the Dukes of Hazzard, that theme song was Waylon Jennings. I had no idea. And like what, Johnny Cash, I knew Johnny Cash because at the time, my teenage self, I was like, he stole my favorite song. I loved Nine Inch Nails' Her.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm like, did I get all of them?
Hey, he also stole Soundgarden. He stole Soundgarden too.
Depeche Mode.
It's great, but it's great to make those connections, and that's why, like, when I came on your podcast the first time, I said, I know I'm gonna bridge the gap between country music and metal fans, and I did the best job that I could have done at that time. I mean, what other show is someone talking about G.G. Allen, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, I still can't believe they had that. They had his live show on Netflix stream once. I was like, there's no way. And I'm like, here I am watching it. Why? You either just know his name or you're a sick person.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You had no clue who George Jones was. I have no clue who G.G. Allen is. So
you're probably
You're better off.
You're better. You're so much better off.
It's fun. It's always fun to be able to talk about those things, though, because the other thing is, you have artists that are in your, like you were talking about, you have artists you sort of gravitate towards. It's always fun, though, when, like, I mention, growing up, I was listening to, like, Falling in Reverse. Like, people don't expect that because I'm such a poster child for traditional country music. I talk about Tom T. Hall. People don't expect me to turn around and start talking about, the Killers and Warped Tour.
It's funny. It's like, if I'm not watching your video, but I hear it, I just, for some reason, I see you getting like a close razor shave, like with the hot lather, and you're just talking to the old man at the barber shop.
I wish that was my audience. Unfortunately, those folks ain't found me yet.
No, you was talking about a second ago, not knowing things and people judging you for not knowing things. I'll tell you straight up, there's people high up in the country music industry that I've met that don't know some of the key figures of country music's foundation, because I've had some conversations with those people. I'm not going to name any names, but I'll mention a big player, Johnny Horton or somebody, and they're like, who? And I'm like, hold up, how'd you get where you are right now? But I think everybody has. I don't think I know everything about country music. I think I have room to learn, and Holliday has room to learn. There's always those obscurities to be found.
Well, there's a very famous radio station that was asked, what's your favorite, what Johnny Horton songs do you have on catalog? And they go, we only have one, and it's the Battle of New Orleans. And it's like, yeah, that's a good one to have, but you're one of the largest stations in the world. You only have one Johnny Horton song in the catalog. That's wild.
Yeah. I think everyone has room to learn and grow. I think that's the major takeaway from that is, I don't. Anybody who pretends like they know everything, I doubt they do. There's always room to grow in anything, and I think that's what kind of makes my channel and Holiday's interesting, because we're always trying to dig up. Like just a month or two ago, Holliday called me and found this whole story about George Jones being questioned for murder. And
we haven't done anything with it, Weldon, so share as much as you'd like. Seriously.
We haven't done anything with it yet, but it's a very deep rabbit hole of, I don't want to take too much time talking about it, but yeah, George Jones was roundabout way questioned for the murder of someone back in the late 50s, early 60s. So it was, you'll find just random things that you're like, how wasn't this bigger news? So...
And by the way, like, you'll find these things and you'll go to research them and there's nothing. And then you have to put on your thinking cap and you get down to business and you start going into some shady channels and you find everything you need to find. But yeah, it was something in there's a website that I'll occasionally look up just to see, like, this happened today in history, and one of the headlines was, on this day in history, George Jones and his band are questioned for the murder of so and so, and I go, what? So I looked up all the details. Nothing. This website's the only place that ever talked about this. Huh. And it took me about 4 or 5 days to get the full research done. But myself and Weldon hope to put out something long form here in the future about it. But yeah, sometimes you unearth something that's never been found before.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder if Garth Brooks called George and say, "Hey, George, we're not."
That's one of the great bits that I'm so happy has transcended just the comedy fans or just country music fans. That's something you can say anywhere. Where are the bodies, Garth? And people get it.
Don't you know Garth hates it too? He hates it so mad.
Imagine? Like,
The whole world thinks you're a serial killer. I couldn't imagine. I hope I never have to imagine that. And Tom Segura just keeps going with it because Garth, I think if Garth wouldn't have got angry about it, it would have probably eventually faded away. But the fact that he reacted to it and blocked Tom on all social media and all that stuff added fuel to the fire. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't done something like, I'll tell you where they're at. They're here. And make it Tom Segura's address.
Yeah.
Right here.
You know, Weldon, they might be at Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah.
So Bobby Mackey's Honky Tonk. I just made a video on this. Nobody's seen it. Nobody will. Bobby Mackey's Honky Tonk is in Kentucky. Are you familiar with it at all, Patrick?
It's funny, is right when I got on the app, you started talking about it, and
Here we are. Yeah, so, okay, it's the most famous honky tonk in Kentucky. It's the most famous honky tonk in Kentucky, not because of Bobby Mackey, but because it is the host, allegedly, of the Gates of Hell.
Oh, God.
It's so... yesterday, they tore down the building. And if you go and look, they tell you, we are relocating the Gates of Hell. Which is hysterical. It's so funny to me. So maybe that's where Garth could send him. Bobby Mackey's in Kentucky.
Yeah, Holliday called me and he said they're tearing down Bobby Mackey's, and at first I didn't realize what he was talking about, and he said Bobby Mackey's the haunted honky tonk. I was like, oh. He said, I said, well, you could make a pretty good video about that. The hook can be they've closed the portal to hell. And he said, yeah, that's a great hook. So he gets off the phone, he calls me back 5 minutes later and said, bummer, they didn't destroy the portal to hell. They're going to relocate it. And I said, that's a funnier hook. They're relocating the gates of hell. How do you go about doing that? But yeah, that's pretty crazy stuff.
Cheaper property taxes over at this county. So we're
moving the gates of hell over a county.
The thing is, right, and Bobby Mackey's it's a honky tonk. It's known truthfully for its music and great atmosphere. That's all true. But like, they also allegedly are the host of the Gates of Hell. There's also a spirit named Johanna that Bobby Mackey wrote a song about. Like, there is a song called Johanna about this girl's ghost that haunts the bar, allegedly. I mean, man, I guess Joanna's gonna, hit the bricks.
That's funny.
Johanna got evicted along with the portal to hell.
Oh, that's funny. I do like that, the folklore of stuff too. And that's exactly what you guys do. I like that. Do you ever wonder why he said this? And it goes into the story of the story songs.
Yeah, and that's the great thing too about like us liking each other. And I've said this a billion times. In any other world, Weldon and I would be like mortal enemies, but we're pals. We help each other out. We give each other good, tips and pointers and production, and I wouldn't want to have another friend in this. He's the best.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Holliday says we're friends. I don't know where he got that information from, but
It's Mount Rushmore.
No, we do work a lot together and help each other out and share stories, and I try to help him. Like recently, we've been talking about kind of his rebranding and doing his content a little bit better way that it's structured to get more views and whatnot. But yeah, it's great to help each other out. I tell people all the time, country music has always been as Hank Jr. said, a great big family. And I think over the years it has drifted far away from that. I was talking to, I'm not going to name his name, but I was talking to a singer backstage at the Opry a while back, and he said, man, 30 years ago, this place was alive, and he was referring to the backstage. Like everybody was shaking hands and talking and hugging and congregating, and it was like fellowship amongst the country music people. And now it's kind of like everybody's in their own dressing rooms. And I wish it would go back to being of, a great big family like it used to be. And I think that will come with people like us just helping each other out. That's what it's all about, is lend a helping hand when you can and make friends. And so I hope it goes back towards the good old family tradition.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Especially because, like, I love meeting artists. Like it doesn't matter like what they play. I could talk. You can always learn something, and it's just one thing I do. Like I love like that access. Like, and who wouldn't? Like when like Shane Smith and this thing, they got off stage, and like Chase comes up and he goes, "Hey, what's up, man?" And like this one girl looks, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Nobody." There's a guy on TikTok that really loves this band.
Well, Weldon gets invited backstage to the Opry all the time, but when we went to the Opry together, this is prior to him having some connections. We go to the Opry and we're both sitting front row, and I'm dressed pretty nice compared to what I'd normally wear, and I walk up to Weldon during intermission, start talking to him, and the lady next to him goes, "Are you somebody important?" And I said, "No, but he is," and walked away. And so that puts him in a position of, now this lady's gonna hassle him. And then, Weldon, would you like to say what you did to me? I had some folks at my cigar shop who knew who you were. Would you like to tell?
Yeah, my revenge to that, he called me at work one day and he said, "Hey, I got these people here and they were talking about your content, and I told them that I know you, and so I just wanted to call so you could say hello to them." And he put me on speaker. I said, "I have no idea who this guy is. He keeps calling me. I don't know how he got my phone number. Please tell him to leave me alone."
He's kidding. Here comes the LOL.
But we do this like we try to joke and have fun as much as possible, and that's it helps us to get the day, to pass the day by, to just have a good time with it.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know that dude.
Yeah, we definitely play some pranks on each other, but very appreciative of Holliday and the help that he does for me, and appreciative of you too, Patrick, because you do, like Holliday was saying earlier, bring a lot of new folks to country music, and you've done a great service to the music in general and the artists. I know everybody appreciates you as much as I do, so thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you guys as well. And I still I got a comment the other day on Tanner Ussery's video. She said, "I really love this artist, and I'm excited to expand my playlist." And I was like, "Awesome, yeah." And I've talked to Tanner. I've met him. I've been on the rail with his dad. Like they're good people, and it's
yeah.
It's funny like when I was thinking about doing I always reminded like the scene of like Indiana Jones where he just puts the sandbag and takes the idol and like a replacement. And I was like, someone's like, "Who do you think would be the next Chris Stapleton?" And I was like literally thinking, I was like, dude, when Tanner Ussery, especially when he's live, when he gets into it, he's got like that like vibe, at least to me. And it was well, how about this person? Like Alan Jackson. I was thinking like Zach Top. I think would fit that. And I wanted to do like a video series of that. And I know there will definitely be backlash, because when people, there ain't no one gonna replace George Strait ever. And I would definitely like Randall King. I think has that type voice, and like Johnny Cash. Have you guys like I would say like Shane Smith and have you seen what's it, Jojo DeSalvo? Yeah, dude. I had a moment with one of his songs, and then like I saw this video and I was like, I am entertained, slightly terrified, and I was like, I felt like I was under a spell. I was like, that is how you market your music. I don't know if you've seen it, Weldon. It looks like you've seen it. And then I'm looking and it says, I was like, I know that name. And I love like going, it says follow back. And I'm like, yes. You know, like, it's a great, if every artist would do that, that's like, dude, that's the video I'm going to show people when I'm like, how do I get views? That, be that.
Yeah, he has a great aura about him, and I mean, like that's the great thing too, you know, about music right now is like you can go back and look at the tapes of what set guys like Johnny Cash apart. Dolly just did an interview with Jelly Roll's wife, and she said what set Johnny Cash apart was that he was magnetic. And that she said she would learn later that that was how he was like when he was coming off of the drugs. He was magnetic. And, you know, I had the pleasure of working at Johnny Cash's farm over the summer, and I got to meet so many fans and friends of Johnny and learn so many stories. Man, there's a lot of layers to that onion, I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, I think Johnny Cash too, you know, and any artist, Johnny wasn't known as a great singer. I mean, he was, but he wasn't a vocalist really. You know, he didn't have that range like other. But he was kind of that, kind of a man's man type of guy. He had the deep voice, you know, and he could really hit you in the feels by just talking. Like you listen to his song "Lumberjack." Most of the song is him talking about him and me and my dad went up to Oregon to the, you know, he just had that aura about him. And then some of these guys are just larger than life. Waylon, I'm good friends with Roger Murrah, who wrote Where Corn Don't Grow and a ton of other hits, but he wrote a lot with Waylon. And he said Waylon was the one guy of all the people he met that no matter how many times he was with Waylon, every time he walked into the room, it just made it feel like you knew somebody big was standing in that room with you. So I think every artist has something about them that is different, and they can display that through their social media. I tell people that all the time, like, yeah, get on there and play your music. But, you know, somebody like Hannah Dasher did this really well. She loves to cook. So she gets on and cooks and tells jokes and stories and stuff. And people love those videos, and they get to see that personality side of the artist too. So that's another great way for the artists to handle their social media.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know if you know Mitchell Ferguson is. He's like Chris Stapleton, Chris Cornell, all mixed together, but he went like super viral for like a skit playing the video game. I think it's called Overcooked, where he's like telling, like, you know, yelling at his wife, and she's like, yes, chef, yes, chef. And I'm like, he like probably over 20 million views, and he's just like, his next video was like, yeah, you might recognize me from this, but I'm also an artist. Like, listen to my music. And he's the one, I don't know if you saw it was the Zach Bryan parody, and what was the last line? He's like, I look like a Lego. I don't know.
It's always funny seeing, like, sometimes artists or us even, like, we might post a one-off video, and then that video catches, and it's like, come on, where were these people with everything else I put my heart and soul into?
I know. It's like on like the funny dog videos. There's these two dogs that like harmonize, and I remember the first time I seen it, I was like, that's Austin Mead. I was like, that's Austin Mead, and like this video has so many views, and I'll just be like, yo, check this out. And I remember, who's that? I'm like, what? It's funny, like how many people have seen. He's in so many compilations of, you know, people love pet videos, and they have no idea. Like Austin Mead, this year, the last 2 years has dethroned my favorite song on like it's like the Wrapped, your year in music, which is like a really hard thing to do because I always like listen to like this one song that like take the edge off of walking in, like I don't know if you said Office Space. I just stare at that door handle like I want to go to work. I need some pep, like, and I always play this one song, but nope, it is cool to see like somebody like dethrone a band I've listened to forever.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue though, like with the pit videos or whatever. I think it's great. There's some artists like Brandon Coleman with the Red Clay Strays or Marcus King or somebody whose voice is standalone great. So anything they post is going to go viral. But for other musicians, I think it's great for them to show other passions or hobbies and connect with those people and let their music slip in the cracks a little bit here and there. And that's a great way to build an audience. I've seen a lot of people be very successful in doing that.
Yeah, and it helps. Like I was telling Bree Bagwell, like I was, you're looking at pictures of her. I'm like, she could definitely be mean, just with that serious stare. But then you go on her TikTok and she's like has like a workout video of like how to deal with like unruly fans, like and 1 and 2 and run away and run. Like I was like, oh, she's fun, So it took the edge off, and like, had I not, not a lot of people have access to like a podcast or anything. But if I saw that video and I saw her, you know what I mean, I'd be like, hey, I'd have no issue of like walking up and being like, hey, how are you?
Right.
Because if you just see people like posing, like it's not cool to be an artist. Like smile, like smile in pictures, especially like the rock side. Yeah, you don't even look at the camera. It looks like you're having the worst day of your life. Like you skip. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. You could be the nicest guy in the world, or be that personality that I think of the picture. But it definitely, I do like the people that do show their personality and what they like and whatnot.
It's interesting. Sometimes I think about like, what if social media would have been around 50 years ago and we would have had Waylon and Willie and all the Johnny Cash? What would their social media teams have put together for them? That would have been so interesting to see. I think it was T. Graham Brown on the podcast last week, and he had at one point said, I think we were talking about him and Keith Whitley or something. He said, man, I kind of wish that we had camera phones back then so we could have had more documentation of all this stuff that I'm talking about. And I said, maybe it's a good thing you didn't, because it probably would have got you in a lot of trouble. Yeah. He said, yeah, that's a good point.
Self-incriminating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing how much, especially if I had Braxton Keith, him having a media team follow him around. I think that it's genius. You see him signing all the autographs and having interactions with his fans. And I was wondering, like, I've been wanting to like you said, you'll never do. Who's your Mount Rushmore country? I wanted to go hit the streets and ask people who they thought the king of country was. Have you guys ever thought about like getting doing videos of just out?
I have one not that's going out and asking people, because we're not in the right part of the country. Me and you, Patrick, are not in the right part of the country to go ask people the king of country music. Yeah. Weldon could, but I have a video I made probably 2 years ago about who's the real king of country and why is it not George Strait as the hook. And then I go down the lineage of all these people who could claim the title of king, and there's Hank and Lefty and Merle and Johnny, and I say, but I don't really care, so you'll never hear me ask that question. Like, it is whoever you want it to be,
Yeah. And yeah, that is a loaded question. And it blows my mind. It's funny, like when you say when we are, like I can imagine going like, who do you think the king of country is? And I'd be like, ain't it Biden? You know, like no, country music, huh? Because I was wondering what people would say. That and I got like a vlogging camera that you know I spent some money on. I wanted. I was like, finally, it has like a gimbal. It's like the Pocket Osmo. I think Nunley uses it.
Yeah.
And like with the gimbal, because like I cannot stand still when I'm watching music, and all my camera footage from my phone is shaky. So I was all excited. It's got like the external mic, like the one he puts in his hat, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna wear a hat and do the same thing. And I put it up, and within 3 seconds, I feel the arm being like, oh, you can't use that kind of camera. I'm like, what? You know, like I specifically went to the frequently asked questions and said it doesn't have a removable lens. It's smaller than my phone. You know, I'm like, whatever. I was just like, he's got, dude, if you use it again, we're throwing you out. I'm like, all right. So you're saying
Wow.
I need a media pass, but I was like, if I can't use it for that, maybe I'll try to like go hit the streets and just get some content from just people.
Well, what's rough about that situation too is it's like if there's anybody who should be able to film in that situation, it's someone such as yourself that promotes artists for free.
Yeah.
Like that video is going to promote this show for free, and you're not uploading the whole concert and making money off of it. I mean, you're using it to say, "Hey, I went to go see the Red Clay Strays. Here's my experience. Y'all should check them out."
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing more stuff like that too. It's just, man, like when I get home from work to like sit down and then like with the editing and I'm like, oh my God. And before you know it, like it's like time to go to bed. But I have been hitting a lot of shows. And it's funny is like, I'll give my phone and be like, dude, take over the channel. And it's funny how like people, I'm like, no, like really talk. Like you can talk for 5 minutes if you want. They're like, no, it's cool. But I was like, man, I was really hoping this would go over. And I've also, I tried like people that have shows. Like I never used the story side of my channel. Yeah. And I was like, hey, if you guys want to make videos of like, hey, you know, it's me, you know, and we're gonna be here, and we're gonna be doing this weekend. I'm like, dude, take over the channel. But like,
yeah,
the people that do send it, they always send with like the watermarks. And you guys know, like at especially the levels you guys are at, if you use something with a watermark, nah, they frown upon that, and you might as well just make it private because it won't get pushed, because they'll think it's a stolen video because it has the watermark.
Well, I've ran into I've posted videos from my own podcast on TikTok, and because it's not my usual content, every time it gets flagged as unoriginal, which is aggravating. And unfortunately, nowadays you're not dealing with real human beings, you're dealing with AI, so you can't really go very far with it. But that has been very annoying to me because I do like to clip up my podcast like you do and post it, and TikTok does not like me doing that. So now I have to make sure it's under a minute long or else I get flagged.
Yeah, dude, that's when people are like, what happened to the longer videos? I'm like, it's been bad for the last couple. And I reached out to somebody, and he actually got in touch with Universal Music Group and said, hey, you know, like we asked him to do the video for a song, and you know, like, could you not do, you know, put a violation on it? But just recently, it just seems like I don't know what happened. Like somebody turned away.
Well, that's the thing. If you think TikTok's bad, try posting stuff on YouTube.
Oh my
God.
Because it's why I stopped. Like I don't, my YouTube is dead because if you're talking music, you're done. It's over. You're going to get 16 different companies are going to smite you.
Yeah. I've been there. And I can be like, I love this artist, and I hope you find that you love this artist too. And it's like, no, we'll do that, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I understand why we have copyright rules in place. Like, I get it. It's promotion. It's legitimately free promotion at this point. If I use a 10-second clip, or Weldon uses a 10-second clip, you use a 2-minute clip, whatever. It's promoting the song. And I mean, we're adding to it, which is supposed to not be violation, but we're in a weird world.
Yeah, and I hate doing like the segments of the song, because like the guitar player would be like, "Dude, you missed the solo." I'm like, "Oh, I know, I apologize." As a guitar player, I feel your pain. Like it was up to me, there wouldn't even be a singer. But that's not how the world works.
Well, especially with what you do when you do the reactions to songs, you can't react to a segment of a song. Like if you just reacted to the first part of "He Stopped Loving Her Today," it's like, well, who knows what happens to the guy, It just doesn't make sense. Hopefully those rules will kind of get a little more relaxed. I doubt it, but maybe. One can hope anyway.
Yeah, the first verse. The end. What happened to the guy? I don't know.
Don't know. That's all UMG or whoever would allow us to use.
Should have made the song shorter and or faster. Yes. But I did go back to our original podcast, and a lot of this stuff we talked about like you wanting like to see new stuff and new artists with that meet the values that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that environment has been getting bigger of like the artists now, and there's a lot of new people coming out that I'm finding out that and there's a lot of new people that are like new voices too, because that was the one thing I'd always disliked about like it's funny is I used to call, I won't say who, but I used to call him Peanut Butter Mouth, because it was like every time, and a lot of the artists were doing that on the radio, it sounded like they had peanut butter on the top of their mouth. They're like just this weird inflection, and I would always people in the car would be like, "Shut up," because I'd be like, "Give this man some milk," Get that peanut butter off his mouth. And they're like, "That's a legend, dude. What do you do?" I'm like, "Yeah, not to me." And then, to find out, like, that's just, they found a guy that sold this many units, and they went up to another artist, and hey, can you sound like, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." They're like, "You got the gig." But, like, the bunch of, like, the young kid, like, that, I don't remember, Hudson Westbrook. I don't know if you guys heard him, like at Talbot. He even live. He had him live. I thought he looks like a really young guy, and I thought he like great sound. And there's a lot of other people that it just feels like right now, like for a while it felt like the huge space was like Zach Ryan. It felt like people were like gasping for air of trying to get their name out, when he just like felt like he was taking over the world, which is fine, because like, and I was right there too. You know what I mean? Like digging, and it helps when you put out 50 songs every other week.
Right.
He's definitely got a muse that's like drinking coffee and has the ADHD. Just like, "Hey, we got another song, bud. Sit down." But yeah, I do feel like it's getting better, like the climate.
Well, what you said about what I said on your podcast kind of coming to fruition. I should have been making videos this whole time saying that I was going to become rich and wealthy and make millions of dollars, because if you go back to my videos last year, I put out a video and I was like, "Man, we need Sturgill. We need new Sturgill to come out. I know he said it's not going to happen, but we need it. And we need some new Jamie Johnson. And how incredible would it be to get new Waylon Jennings?" And everything I've said that would be incredible has come to fruition. And about a month or so ago, I was in Nashville, and Theo Vaughn had a podcast on our on Brooks and Dunn, and he did it at RCA. And I called Holliday. I said, man, how cool would it be if we got the opportunity to do a podcast with someone at RCA, because it's so historic. And so I went and I was kind of knocking on doors, but nobody answered. And so I was like, well, I guess we can forget about that. Maybe one day. And then the last time I'm in Nashville, I ended up meeting a very nice lady named Ariel. And she's like, hey, I got a place over at RCA. If you ever want to do a private tour, hit me up and we'll do it. So the next day we go over to RCA with Ariel and she shows us around, which was incredible, by the way. If you ever get the chance to see RCA, it's phenomenal. But they had a little podcast studio set up. She's like, if you ever want to do a podcast or something here at RCA, just let me know. And I'm like, boy, it's just like everything that I say is coming true. So I'm just going to start saying, I'm going to become a millionaire next year.
Like a country music Nostradamus.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to rebrand myself as country music Nostradamus.
Hey, you're already branded as the voice of country music, and it's working well for you. Weldon got to do some appearances and some shows, and that's what these folks called him. And apparently, even the old timers really enjoy that nickname for him, and we're so happy about all of that, and just such a lucky group of people we are, you know.
Yeah, it was interesting because I got contacted to do this live show, Variety on Main in Franklin. They do it pretty much monthly. Mandy Barnett puts it on, and Monica Ramey, and it's just a fantastic show. It's a variety show down in Franklin, and they called me asking me to be a part of it. And originally I thought, they wanted me to announce or MC or whatever, because I kind of have the announcing type voice. I didn't think they wanted me to have a segment of the show. But then like 2 or 3 days before the show, they're like, no, we want you to, you're going to have 2 segments. There's an intermission. So you're going to have, in each set, you're going to have your own segment. So I thought of the old Opry. So the old Opry, had people like Minnie Pearl and String Bean and these folks who would get up there and perform, but they had the banner, June Carter. And I thought, if I can mix a little bit of comedy in with the country music history stories and make it flow, it'll be good. And we had a great time. I was nervous as all get out because I'd never been in front of a crowd that big. It was a packed out house. I think it's a 400 seat theater. So the first set I was nervous as all get out, but the second one, Mandy had to give me a good talking to and said, just have fun with it. So I went out there and had fun with it. And it was very interesting to, instead of looking into a camera, talking to your audience, talking to them face to face, but it was really neat to get to experience that.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. It's funny. Like I was saying earlier, like, I'm like, man, there's people in that store. I don't want to go in, but, man, I have no issue. It's weird. Like, I get the heebie-jeebies, but to talk to a bunch of people, like, for some reason, I don't know what it is. Like, because my one buddy be like, you won't come out and hang out with your own friends, but you can get on a mic and just talk to people you don't know. I'm like, I think that's what it is. Like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know, because like, I got asked to MC my cousin. I guess you could say she's a famous comedian, but like, so I used to do like stand up every time she'd come around town. She'd be like, hey, because MCing's tough, especially when you're like the first one out, and because she was engaged to Andrew Dice Clay for a while, and she tours with him, so I can't. The crowds are like they want you to be like ruthless. So I was like, oh, I have no problem going out and being mean. Like, yeah, it's funny. Is one of my friends was like, I want to go to a comedy show, but I don't want them to like pick on me. I'm like, oh, this comedian does not do that. And I'm like, don't worry, it's only certain people do crowd work. They don't do crowd work. So I hit her up like, who I'm with, be super mean to, please. But it was like during COVID, so I had my mask on, and I was like, hey, Eleanor. She was like, hey, and I'm like, oh, normally we hug, but okay. It took the mask off, and I shaved my head, and I've never shaved my head before, and I didn't even recognize me. She ended up going after me. I'm like, what's going on here? And because you can't really tell on stage, and she leaned in. She goes, "Oh my God, Patrick, how long are you gonna let me talk to you like that?" And I'm like, "The whole night." Like, I'm not gonna say anything. But yeah, like it's funny. I need to get her some shirts because she's always on Joe Rogan's podcast all the time. And
Oh wow.
yeah, she runs the last I checked the comedy store podcast. But it's funny is like she'd be like, "Yeah, I just watched Bill Burr's special," and I'm like, "Oh really? I didn't see it was out." She goes, "Well, it's because I was at his house." I was like, "Oh."
I don't know what's more wild, the fact that we've managed to yet again do a super long podcast, or that we're learning Eleanor is Patrick's cousin.
Yeah, I don't even know if you know Eleanor Kerrigan.
Kerrigan, yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Oh, you are?
I am familiar, yeah.
Yeah. Like those stories about her mom, they're absolutely true. Like I just saw my Aunt Edie the other day, and it's crazy when like growing up, like my grandmother would have like backhanded me had she heard her swear, and to see like your grandmother and your great aunt like in a picture with Andrew Dice Clay, you're like, "Hey, do you know what he says?" You know, like it's wild, but yeah, it's funny. It's just like I was like, man, I wish you knew a lot of country people. Like, hey, that's crazy, you guys know, because it's weird, like being around the area where she's from, where I would assume she had fans, and a lot of people they're like, "Who?" I'm like, "No, you would definitely Eleanor. You would know, other than Gone in 60 Seconds, you would know her name." But yeah, all those, it's funny, like it's all like true in a funny way. Like when people are like, "Did her dad really do that?" I was like, "Yep." I was like, he owned a famous typewriter shop, and he would shoot rock salt at his own children. And if people were parked out in front of his store for too long, he'd have his sons move the cars, and he'd be like, and they'd be like, "We didn't realize like we were carjacking these cars." But it's all true. It's funny because people are like, "That's just a story." I'm like, "No, it's not." I was like, her mom had 10 kids. My grandmother had 10 kids. And
Wow. Big family.
yeah. And we used to all get together at my great-grandmother's row home in South Philly. And, like, it's fun. Like, I would just go under a table and just be at the party under a table just because there was nowhere else to stand. Like,
Remind me again, Patrick, what state is you're from?
It's fun. I've bounced around the tri-state area a lot. I always say like where I went to high school is where I'm from, which would be Landenberg, PA.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually it's pretty rural. It's like the first time I went to the stockyards, people were like, "We're gonna show you Texas Longhorns," and I'm like, "Okay." And then they showed, so I was like, "Yeah, seen them."
Well, with a family that big, if I ever travel to that area, I'm just going to ask them if they know you. They'll probably be your cousin.
Yeah. Especially around like South Philly, you'll do, yeah.
Well, you and Holliday are pretty close to each other, relatively speaking. Y'all are pretty close to each other.
You're around like Pittsburgh, right?
Yes.
So
Relatively.
yeah, I went to Pittsburgh once. I feel like it was like 4 hours. I went to this.
Yeah, about 5.5, 6, but yeah. And you came to Pittsburgh one time, and it was nothing to write home about, so you went home and never came back.
I went to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and
Oof.
yeah, it was intense.
The one thing Pittsburgh does right is community. The problem is this is a drunken community. There is a beer joint on every corner.
Yeah.
And for events like St. Patrick's Day and Picklesburg, people are getting absolutely annihilated drunk. It is a scary time to be out. We're the only team that if we win or lose the Super Bowl, will light couches on fire and throw them out into the street.
Yeah.
Well, I know we gotta cut it off here pretty quick, Patrick. Was there any last minute things that you wanted to ask us?
Oh man, I don't. It's funny. Like I always have like questions all laid out.
And then you don't think about it when you get here.
Yeah, and it always like steer clear. But I guess I did want to know like who's your guys' like favorite new artist?
Go ahead, Weldon.
I think Zach Top is absolutely killing it. I'm loving everything that he's doing. He's staying really true to himself and true to the traditional country music. I see a lot of young folks following in his footsteps, which is great. So I think he's one that's big on everybody's radar right now, and hope he keeps up the good work that he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, Braxton Keith was great. I was so glad that Talbot was able to work out myself and Nikki in Nashville interviewing him, and we had a great interview with him, and he's putting out new stuff all the time. Joe DeVito is a folk friend that I have who falls into this vein perfectly. He's a delight. But I do want the internet to know this lady who sings the double wide song all over your For You page, Gabriella Rose is her name. I sent everybody videos of her 2 months ago, so just saying, just throw that out there. She's great as well. But yeah, I think that's...
Belle France also.
Yeah.
Belle France is killing it also. I think have you not heard her yet?
No, that's...
She is really blown up with her cover of the Grand Tour. And she just came... Hello, Darling. She just came out with if we make it through December for Christmas. She's phenomenal.
Huh. I'll have to check her out. It's funny. I was eyeing a guitar for a while, and I had no idea. It's funny. I walked in this venue and I said, "Man, I feel like I know that guy," and come to it, it was Zach Top. And I also I missed the message of someone saying, "Hey, we got a private party. Do you want to come with?" And check out Zach Top, but I was on the fence for this guitar, and you'll know it when you see it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I was like, man, Zach Top, you cost me $3,000. Because I was like I found out like as soon as like I found out like Brent Mason is like one of the most, if not the most prolific session player for all of the big country artists and the new guys now. And I was like, I wanted to try B Bender. I wanted to go like full country. And I'm like, man, that price tag. And then like it was the Steel Woods, and I didn't know who was opening up. And like I was like right up front, and I'm like, my God. As soon as I heard him play in his tone, I was like, man, I'm poor.
Well, you know you're good. He worked with Glenn Campbell.
Brent Mason? Or?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's another name that blew my mind, because people like Eddie Van Halen talked about him all the time. I'm like, I'd never heard it. And then people were sending me like Wichita Lineman. It's a good song, but I'm like, I said guitar. It's the same when I said, I want to hear Brad Paisley. I want to hear his chops. And they were like, oh, Whiskey Lullaby. I'm like, everyone's doing this wrong. But I saw a video of him going back and forth with Jerry Reed. And that's another one. I was like,
yeah.
As a guitar player, I'm like, how did I miss these? They're incredible.
When I was on last, I had a list of guitarists, country music guitarists, for Patrick to listen to. And so after the show, I sent him the list, and it was every era, that Merle Travis and Mother Maybelle and all sorts of people. And so I know he got his fill.
Yeah, it's. And like I've been learning how to like chicken pick and do all that stuff, and dude, it is not easy. You need the dexterity and everything, and it's like what's frustrating is like I could pick it, but it's not authentic. And anybody that knows how it should be would call me out, as they righteously should. I'd be like, you know what, you're right, I am cheating. But I still have no idea like when is the right time to use the B Bender. But to see people use it, and then that are, you can't beat a guy at his craft. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you may be able to like finish drywall, but not like the guy that's been doing it his whole life, you know? And
Yeah.
the guys that and I'm trying to get there, and like I'm having like these like moments where like I'd be by myself and I just stand up and go, yes. And it's cool that like to find out like it's not all just the generic, you know, beer truck dog. There's soul and there's fantastic talent that, you know, like money can't buy Brent. I mean, money can absolutely buy Brent Mason. You know, like I plan on sending him some money to do some, you know, country versus metal songs with some of the artists that I found. I probably shouldn't even be talking about it because I'm pretty sure we're supposed to keep it on the down low of doing something like that. But yeah, like just to watch him, and it's like, oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some great things happening in country music, and I'm excited to see what this year holds for music and for us three creators and the continued growth. Whatever happens with the TikTok platform, I think we're all three going to continue on. And I told Holliday the other day, I think big things are coming up year for all of us, and just interested to see what it is. But I know we're all going to have another great year. This one's been fantastic to us, but I think next year's going to be even better.
Yeah. Hopefully we hit those Nunley numbers, because if not, I got to sample more of them. Like I remember I always just do the
Listen, did you know?
I have like so many snippets, and he's like, it is funny to see him pop up on the videos, knowing that his, you know, his time is probably such a huge commodity, and I hope we all get to that point where, you know what I mean, like if you guys like have a hobby and you can just be like, hey, I'm Dillan from this, and you know, and they're like, ooh, you know, come down, and you get the lanyards.
Yeah.
I love seeing that more than anything, to know that like you got to get to be on the other side of the world that you love. And I like when you're seeing him at like the tracks and stuff, you know, it's cool to see people that are doing things, and to see like doing just people given an opportunity to appreciate that person. And I would love to see like that side for you guys, you know, you doing the emceeing, being backstage at the Opry, and you know.
Yeah, it really is so rewarding, and like you talking about going backstage to these shows and stuff, it is very rewarding to. It makes you feel that people appreciate what you're doing, and it's not just the people who watch you, but the people who are in the industry. So that's great, and yeah, super happy for Nunley. Nunley, you know, reached out to, well, didn't really reach out to me. He and I had a back and forth kind of funny thing going on back in the summer of 2023, and we become friends. So I'm like you, Patrick. I love seeing all of y'all's success, and I hope we're all successful together in it.
Yeah, and hopefully we can meet in person one day.
Yeah, I need to get up there. I've never been to the Northeast, so I need to get up there. I've traveled all over the country, but I've always steered away from the Northeast. You know, the TV doesn't exactly paint you fellas in a good light to us Southern folk.
Weldon's never met an Italian, Patrick. They're not a joke. Totally serious. Weldon's never met an Italian.
Not many Italian folks down here.
Oh man, you need to go up. You need to go up to Brooklyn and eat pizza wrong.
Yeah, no joke.
Holiday's told me some stories that has made me think maybe I ought to just stay down here in the South.
That's funny. That's crazy. It's like my one. He was in like, we were in like Lower Maryland. He's like, man, I ain't never been this far up north. I said, did someone yell at you for opening the door for him yet? And he goes, oh, why would they do that? I said, because you're not in the north. It's just you wait. You'll know. You'll know. But other than it's not that bad. Like I'm going to Times Square on on next Wednesday, and I was just like, I'm bringing some she's 14. She's never been. I'm like, you'll see, like
Yeah.
because I'm gonna be scared too. Don't worry, especially when you go on the subway, because I'm. If you look, like you are going, trampled.
Me and Holliday went into a Dollar General or something in Tennessee, and the lady was like, "God bless y'all. Y'all have a good day." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am. You too." And Holliday's like, "What in the world was that?" And I was like, "What?"
I had said, Weldon, you know how I know I'm not in Kansas anymore, meaning Pittsburgh. He said, why? I said, that lady told me to have a good day, and she meant it. Because you know how it is. You know how it is, Patrick. Everybody up here is in such a hurry. And I mean, they want you out. They want you in and out, and they're not going to do none of this pleasantry stuff. And yeah, I told Weldon, living in this part of the world, every encounter is a business transaction, and you can learn really quick. Like you said, people will yell at you for doing nice things like holding doors open because everybody's strong and independent until the end of the world, I guess.
Yeah, that's like when I was down in Texas and there was all these rich stores, and I'm like, you could just walk in there, and they're like, yeah, why? I'm like, you would need an appointment and a credit check to walk into that store if it was about by where I'm at. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I was like,
really?
Yeah, that's the other thing. So like we do, occasionally we're invited to things, and I always say, like, what am I going to wear? And Weldon, being from the South, says, I'm just going to wear what I always wear. And I say, no, you're not. We can't do that. Because up here, you know how it is, Patrick. If you go into a place like wearing a hoodie, you're kicked out. Yeah. You're gone.
No public restrooms. Get out.
No public restrooms and get out. Exactly. And so it's just such a cultural clash.
That's fun. Before I don't need the restroom. I use the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they do that. They do that in Tennessee too. If you walk up and down Broadway, you'll notice.
Oh yeah.
That was rough. Before we get out of here, though, Patrick, I want to ask you the question you asked us. Who's your go-to artist right now?
Oh my God, there's so many on the rock side, like the rocky God man, Dylan Wheeler, Giovanni, and the Hired. Oh God, and I saw them in the turn. Not, I do like Turnpike Troubadours, but Trio Revival, all those guys doing that hard rock, country-esque type thing. I love those guys. I followed them around as much as I could, with Co Wetzel. At the beginning we had but after seeing them live, I absolutely, and oh my God, there's so many Della Rosa, Derek Hay, Shelby Stone, to Cat Hasty, Caitlin Butts, all the and all William Clark Green, Randall King, and all those. It's there's so many of them. Tanner and all those guys. It's weird, because I love them all, and it's just they put out all these albums, and I'm just still trying to find time to go down. Like Slade Coulter, who I love as well, just sent me his new album that's coming out, and it's the whole community. They're all so nice, and too, that's what makes it so hard. You know what I mean? Because I know
also you're making friends of these people, so it's hard. So when you're trying to do what you do, and you're like, man, it's hard to pick a favorite because these are my friends. That's how we are with the old timers, because we've made, Weldon's made friends with them. I sort of just latch my I say I latch my wagon onto his rocket ship, but they're so good. But I mean, it's if someone asks me my favorite Bobby Braddock song, all of them. I don't want to, he's my buddy.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, if it's somebody bigger than me, has a bigger following, and he has coattails, I'm putting clove hitches on those. You know what I mean? If they're like, hey, want to go for?
Well, the thing is, you have to see, and I'll say this before we get off of here too, right? If you do it for the wrong reasons, you're done, right? But myself and Weldon have a great symbiotic sort of what's good for him is good for me. What's good for me is good for him. It helps us. You know, what's the old Reagan quote about sinking ships and rising tides? That's what it is. You know, we're trying to get the tides high and the boats up in the air. You know, and we're working on it.
I think ultimately what I've always wanted to do and what Holliday wants to do too is have an impact on the industry. You know, there's some creators who I talk to who have certain goals in place, like wanting to be, you know, a personality on CMT or whatever. And that's a great goal to have, a fine goal to have. For me, it's always been, I just want to have an impact on the industry. And I think we have. I mean, I remember a year and a half ago or so, Holliday and I both had done videos on Psycho by Eddie Nowak. And then I had messaged you and I said, hey, you should do one of your videos on Psycho. I think it'll do well. And like all three of us did really well with Psycho. And then everybody started using it as whatever you call viral thing on TikTok. And it's like, here's a song that came out in what year, Holiday? 68 or something?
Yeah, it would have been around there.
And was virtually unknown, and then all of a sudden everybody in the country is using Psycho and people are singing it at school and stuff. Because my brother was still in high school and he came home and was like, man, that song you was talking about on TikTok, everybody was singing it at school today.
And it's funny too, because like Eddie Nowak is not a star. Like just it had, that was his hit, and it wasn't even a hit at the time. And it gained a huge cult following with like underground rock people. Like Elvis Costello has a cut of it, right? Like that group of people sort of latched onto it. And then, yeah, to see it come back to country music and to go viral on TikTok. And then, you know, Gary Gentry's Chicken in Black goes viral. And just those songs that nobody was looking for, you know, it's great to see.
Yeah, to bring exposure to that kind of music and to see it turn into trends or go viral or whatever, people messaging you like you said, I've been turned on to this new artist because of your video. It's just, to me, that's the most rewarding thing of all. And I just want to be able to continue, me and Holliday, I want to continue making an impact on the genre as a whole. And one day, hopefully, we'll all be remembered for it or whatever. Or maybe we won't, but at least we had fun with it while we tried.
Yeah. I same with you. Like, I would love to make like these guys like household names. Like some of the most talented people in the world, in the industry, like the Wilder Blue, and people like that, and Shane Smith and the Saints. You know, like it's just tremendous talent that. If I could, you know, be like the sex tape, you know what I mean? Like, and have that effect, that like, how cool would that be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like these are the guys that if you're on their channel, you're gonna get phone calls. You're gonna get people stopping you at the store, like, hey man, yeah, that would be cool. To be able to like help artists like that, especially, you know. Being as like I don't, people are like, hey, what's it take for you to like do a video on my music? I'm like, what song? It's the comment of just tell me what song. Have it out on Spotify. That's it. That's it. You know.
Well, I think what you does do that, Patrick. You know, people when you do your videos, people hear those artists and go listen to them, and it does make an impact. I really think it does. I think all three of us and other folks who are doing what we do make a big impact, and a lot of times it's bigger than we realize. Like when we did Psycho, I never would have dreamed, or Chicken in Black, I never would have dreamed that it would have just blown up to, you know, hundreds of millions of views once you add up everybody who used it as a sound for these viral trends. So it really makes you think, though, every time with every bit of content that you do, like it makes you think a little bit more about what you're doing, because you're like, what I think is just a simple video may or may not turn into something a whole lot bigger than I intended it to be. And, but it's very rewarding and a very interesting thing that we do.
Yeah. And what also is nice is it's a positive movement.
Yeah.
I do like that as well. Like we're not bringing anybody down.
Yeah, don't let Oliver Anthony see your pedal boards, and it'll stay positive for the most part.
Don't tell him I have a compressor on my voice right now. I got a noise gate too. Oh no. Oh wait. Oh, I can't. I didn't know that. I had to make this up, but yeah. You
Yeah, you're canceled. Oliver Anthony's never listening to Country versus Metal again. It's over for you, Patrick. We're just kidding, Oliver. We're just kidding.
I know. Yeah. He know. Because he's another guy. He's a tall dude.
Yeah. That really sucks when you just realize it after they punch you too.
Yeah, it's like back before I was like, you know what? Everything I want to do is just I want to have a positive spin. This is where I said I was like, Blake Shelton looks like a DUI attorney. And like somebody was interviewing me and they're like, do you know how big Blake Shelton is? And I was like, it sounds like I'm going to find out, you know? I was like, it wasn't mean. And he goes, oh man, the tone you said, it came off kind of mean. I'm like, well, I'm gonna take that off. I wonder if I think I did, but yeah, he was like.
I think Blake Shelton, though, is the kind of guy that could take all the punches. You know, he's got a good sense of humor. Some of the people, I think Luke Bryan, luckily, is the same way. He can take the jabs. Some people get their feelings hurt over those kind of things, but yeah. I think you're good on Blake.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to be on The Voice, so. And if I am, it's chairs. I'm turning around.
Well, he's replaced anyway by Reba, so as long as you didn't say anything bad about Reba, you're good.
Yeah, that's another person I was like, I had no idea they could sing.
You just knew her from Tremors?
Yeah, Heather Gummer from Tremors. That's a nice song. Where? Oops. Again, there was a lot of really. That's how you know Queen Reba from Tremors. I'm like, it was a fantastic movie when I was growing up. You know?
It's a good movie. She did fantastic in her role.
Then you hear Fancy, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. You ever heard Bobby Gentry's version?
I don't think I know about it. I don't think I've ever listened to it. And that's funny. That's on one of the ones where it was like, you know, the Parker McComb versus George Strait, like, or where I was doing like the cover songs, where it's just to listen to side by side. But yeah, that I definitely should do that.
So I don't know if it exists anywhere. If anybody could find it, it'd be Holliday, because he's good at finding stuff. But her original version was like 15 minutes long. The song, like, there was a lot more verses to the story, but they cut it down. And the fella who produced it down at Fame Studio, he didn't know what the song was about until after it was already released. He never realized that it was about, you know, child prostitution, basically, is what it's about. Yeah, Holliday, you need to get on that. We need to find the 15-minute version out there.
I can work on it. I can't make any promises, but I can try.
Yep.
That's what you get paid the big bucks for, Holliday.
Yeah, I'm really rolling in the dough.
You gotta use that website.
Don't you know I don't know anything about country music, Weldon?
Oh,
that's funny. But yeah, I don't know, like, if you guys got a roll, because I looked down, I'm like, man, you're right. I was like, did another 2 hours.
I tried to get you at about 2 hours, so I was asked to keep it around 2 hours. So yeah, I think we ought to roll.
yeah. It's what is it, man? I don't even have a clock.
2 hours.
2 hours. Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Steve wanted to make sure to message me. He said, keep it, he said, keep it around this time. He goes, or you'll have the longest podcast in the history of mankind. So I've been trying to look, but we appreciate you having us on, Patrick and Steve. We love you guys and what you do, and we appreciate you, speaking to us for sure.
Oh, dude, yeah, I love talking to you guys. It's always a pleasure. For you guys, even because I'm a noob, I have so many names where I'm just like, man, every time I talk to these guys, like I get grounded again.
Well, you found a niche, Patrick, that really needed to be filled of a new guy coming into country music, and it's so cool to watch you listen to a new song that I've heard all of my life, and seeing your reaction to it and hearing how you're kind of living vicariously through you of hearing that song again for the first time. And it really filled a gap in the industry, I think. And it made a community of people because me and Holliday get a lot of people who are new to country music who hear the stories, and they're hearing the music with you. So you do a fantastic job, and we appreciate everything you do.
I like when you do, I talk about a lot of deeper cuts, and you'll see my video and then you'll post, like, I did Drink Up and Go Home, Bobby Bear's version. And there's a Grateful Dead version out there. There's a lot of versions of that song. It's a long lineage. But what made me feel good about it is you were so pleasantly surprised by how the song turned out. I like that.
I normally do that, and a lot of them get muted, and I have to put it to private, because that's happened a lot. And there's been some songs I'm like, wow, man, this is like, if you would have told me this was like a blues guy, I would be like, I of course, I would be more open-minded to it. And then, to hear like the country, it has a lot of, especially the early stuff, has a lot of that influence built into it. And there has been times where, because like a lot of times, like people have stopped giving the suggestions, so I have to look around, and you especially there's always names in songs I've never heard of, and it's always like the deep, the gateway to hell deep cut of country. Do you have a dark soul? Do you like story songs?
It really is. I try, I try to talk about those things, because who else is,
When I say caretaker, I meant undertaker.
Yeah, Holliday definitely likes the darker side of things.
Hey, mama. We're going to go down that rabbit hole today. Yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys coming on and taking the time and for what you do.
Well, we appreciate you for allowing us to come back on. I remember last time you and I talked, it was like we got done and we were both like, man, we didn't realize we talked for that long. And it hit me again. I didn't think we'd been talking for 2 hours, but time flies when you're having fun. It was fun to come on and talk to you again, and just always keep in touch, and let's keep on keeping on.
Yeah, and I definitely look forward to seeing hopefully, whatever happens in the courts, if it goes for us, good. And I'd like to see you guys' numbers grow, and
Yeah, you as well. whatever happens, something else will pop up anyway, and we'll all congregate over there, whatever it may be. But yeah, I see nothing but success in our future, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And hey, whoever does take off, I will ride them coattails.
There we go.
I'm gonna throw them hooks out. But man, I feel like this momentum's slowing down. You're gonna look back and go, Patrick. Remember me. All right, it was great seeing you guys. So.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you, and thanks for inviting us on.
Yeah, man. Everybody have a great rest of their day.
You too.
Thanks, guys.